Now you've heard who all the winners are, it's time to have a look at the data behind the FC 100. I'm Sam Tighe, and I'm joined by two of ESPN's best data analysts in Ryan O'Hanlon and Bill Connelly to do just that. Bill, I'll come to you first. PSG have the most players in the FC 100 with 11. It's not actually the entire starting 11, and we'll pour one out for poor William Pacho soon. A third winger made the list instead of him. Before we get into those specific positions, though, I guess we shouldn't be surprised ultimately to see PSG dominating this list.
Yeah, and it's funny because, heading into this match, obviously PSG was the favorite, but, in our preview beforehand, I'm not going to claim credit for this. I was the only one who picked PSG to win, but I still missed by 4 goals. We all just assumed the Tortoise would either beat the Hare or come really close. But in the end, the fact that PSG had the most talented lineup in the world, had backups on the FC top 100 list, kind of made the difference. And you walk through and it really is just a pretty incredibly complete lineup that they've put together, mostly over these last couple of years too. I mean, the attackers obviously, but they have the best right back on the list. They have the best left back on the list. Donnarumma was the number 3 goalkeeper, and you could kind of make a case that was giving him short shrift a little bit. He probably could have been higher than that. It's just an incredible lineup that they put together. Most of these guys are either in their prime or not even close to their prime yet. And it's going to remain probably the most talented lineup in the world moving forward.
Yeah, and on those PSG wingers, for Pacho at centre-back, there's only 10 spots. It's tough, but there's 20 spots for wingers. Kvara is 7th, Barcola is 13th, and Doué is 14th. Now, based on the final alone, that looks slightly off. However, there's surely a bit more to it than just one game.
Yeah, there is. Obviously, if there was a vote now, I think that would look a lot different. But, that was heading back to December. Obviously, we talk a lot with PSG about the Manchester City match in late January, coming back from 2-0 down. But really, this team became the best team in the world in early December when Luis Enrique moved Dembele. He's on the wingers list. He became a forward, played about 80% of his minutes at forward, moving from that point forward. And Doué moved ahead of Barcola in the lineup as well. Went from playing about 30 minutes a match to 60. They were the best team in the world from basically that point forward. So maybe we should have been putting Doué on the list. It had been a little while. He had double-digit goals and assists since December. Maybe he should have been higher on the list to begin with. But needless to say, if this vote had happened this past Monday, he'd be about top 5, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, there's always room for a little bit of recency bias, isn't there? Especially when your star performance comes in the very biggest game in club football. Ryan, we'll bring you in here. 2024 edition last year, there were 28 new faces. This year, we're looking at 40. What do you think this signifies?
Yeah, I think it kind of connects to what we're saying about PSG, even though the votes came in before the Champions League final. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the results of the season have a large bearing on who makes this list. And I think there was a lot of upheaval in Europe, I think, compared to our expectations. Manchester City massively falling off, Manchester United and Tottenham, who always would still have a handful of players, almost getting relegated from the Premier League. Real Madrid, who tend to be towards the top of the list every year, falling off. Napoli, surprising everyone and winning Serie A. Liverpool having a better season than expected. Arsenal kind of stalling out with injuries. Bayer Leverkusen, surprising everyone, winning the Bundesliga last year, not doing as well this year. So I think for a sport where it seemed like we kind of knew what was going to happen every year, this was the first surprising season in a long time. And I think we see it in the number of new players that made it onto the list this year.
Yeah, that makes sense. You mentioned Manchester City right at the top there, and I think we need to drill down on them a little bit. Their presence, or should we probably say lack of presence in this list, it still feels astonishing, even though it's been a very slow burn of City's decline through the course of the season. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, I do wonder if we voted on this after the season, if a couple more players wouldn't have made it. But what if I told you last summer that Nottingham Forest would have double the number of players as Manchester City do on this list? Forest got 4, City got 2. And it's not even that City just got 2. One of the 2 they signed in January. So they had 11 players last year. Erling Haaland is the only repeat player, which I think, not to call into question the premise of this exercise, but it really does raise the question of do we actually understand who's good at this sport, basically? Because I think we're either saying with this massive change that Rodri is basically the most valuable athlete like in the history of sports, where he can make 10 players top 100 players, and then his absence makes them just not top 100 players, or like 10 players magically all got significantly worse. Because we're not saying that they're not top 20 players. We're saying they're not top 100 players. So yeah, it's fascinating to me, basically, that they went from by far the most talented team in the world to now having one more player than Al Nassr.
Yeah, it is wild. It does call a lot of things into question, notably how good is Rodri, who obviously wasn't on the list because he spent the whole season out injured, but there's suddenly no De Bruyne, suddenly no Bernardo, no Ruben Dias. I noticed that Kyle Walker missed his first FC 100 ever. Ederson didn't appear for the first time in 6 years, Grealish for the first time in 4 years. You get where I'm going. It's been a huge drop-off. It's interesting for sure. Let's use the Premier League as a bit of a theme here. I come back to you, Bill. The FC 100, if you break it down by league, Premier League has 35 representatives. La Liga 25, Serie A 13, Liga 13, and we know that 11 of those 13 were PSG. So pretty dominant from the Premier League in this regard. I've seen over the course of the spring good arguments either way to say that this is a strong Premier League or a weak Premier League, depending on your viewpoint. Is 35 Premier League players out of 100, is that a clue as to how that debate should be settled?
Well, it certainly gives us a reminder of the Premier League's biggest strength, which is depth. I mean, if we're talking about how good was the top team or the top two teams, yeah, maybe this wasn't quite as strong a league as it's been in the past, mainly because Manchester City wasn't the best team in the world. Liverpool was still really, really good. And Liverpool and Arsenal both only lost to PSG in the Champions League. So the top was still really strong. But I do think this was the year we saw the middle class, the Nottingham Forests of the world, really kind of stepping forward and playing an interesting role in the race as a whole. The fact that obviously Spurs and Manchester United kind of saved the best performances for the Europa League, for sure. Spurs looked great playing suffer ball, which they didn't really try to do in the Premier League, and United had some dramatics as well. I mean, the fact that they finished that low in the league and still made the Europa League final, even with the randomness that a competition like that entails, that still drops a hint, you could say. And when the top two teams only lost to the European champion and the most talented team in the world, I think we can safely say that the Premier League is obviously the best league no matter what, but comfortably the best league in the world.
Right, fair enough, I think. Right, last question, Ryan, it's for you. The FC 100 has been running for 9 years now, and there are only 3 players to have made all 9 lists. It's Lionel Messi, Robert Lewandowski, and Jan Oblak. Of those 3, who do you think is most likely to drop out next year, break the streak, and unfortunately miss out on what I assume is an ESPN glass plaque for the trophy cabinet to say you made it straight decade?
It's a good question. I think the obvious answer would be Messi, because he's not playing in a Big 5 league, but he still didn't play a lot this season and managed to finish top 10 at his position. So I think Messi could sit out an entire year and our voters would still end up in the top 20. So to me, it's Lewandowski, mainly because he's just at risk of getting injured, right? He plays on a borderline psychotic team in the terms of the physical output they require from their players. He's almost 40. I mean, he's been an absolute machine in terms of health over his career. That's one of kind of the things that's allowed him kind of to ascend into the ranks of an all-time great. But I could just see him getting hurt, right? And if he gets injured, misses half the year, and also has a little bit of an age-related decline, then I think he falls out. Oblak, just playing keeper, not as physically demanding. He also finished 5th in the keeper rankings, despite, his shot stopping performance isn't quite what it used to be. I think he's pretty safe, just because he's not going to get hurt and he has the name recognition, as we saw with his place on the list.
All right, fair enough. But fascinating stuff. And that's a wrap for the ESPN FC 100 in 2025. Don't forget to check out the lists on ESPN.com and follow all the coverage in the coming days across ESPN. Thanks for listening to this special edition of the Football Reporters, and we'll see you soon.